So the first thing that has to happen is the reducers have to be taken out. There's one on each side. They're split in the middle. On these Emu ones, you could typically just put a punch in there and lightly tap, and they will come out just like that. Once those are out, we can start looking at the snap rings themselves. With the reducers out of the way, we can reach into the side of the top of the shot, pull the O-ring out. It's the old one. And then behind that is, using a pick, is a spiral snap ring. This guy, just kind of peel it out of there. There's one of these on each side. And a little bit of debris there. One of these on each side. We need to take them both out. So we've got the O-rings and the spiral clips out of the way, and now we need to get the bearing out. This can be done in a press. This can be done in an arbor press. Those things not everybody has at home. So one of the things you can do if you have some larger 1/2-inch sockets, this is about a 7-inch long, 1/2-inch diameter bolt. You can see it just fits through there. I'm going to run it through a larger socket. This socket is larger diameter than the eye itself. And then I'm going to run another one that's a smaller diameter, in this case 1 inch on the other side. Get some washers, stack them up there. Get a nut, drive this in. The idea here is when we tighten this nut and bolt combination, it will drive the bearing assembly into the larger socket and press it out. Let's see. If you have a small impact wrench, this works really well. 3/4 inch. There is our old bearing. This is the old bearing. This one's not in terrible shape. There's certainly worse, but undoubtedly it's still a little bit sloppy. These bearings tend to squeak and make a lot of noise, and so the goal here is to put a better quality bearing in and do as best a job as we can to weatherproof that assembly to improve the lifespan. Next step here is going to be putting the spiral ring in on one side. We need it in place so that when we press the bearing in, it doesn't go too far. These can be kind of a tricky thing. You kind of got to wind them in here, and that could be a little bit of a tedious task. It is easier in a vise, that's for sure, but it is something that you're probably going to have to fight a little bit with. Sometimes they're easier than others. And there is an inner groove that this drops into, which you got to make sure that you catch. Just kind of spiral that sucker in. It's most of the way there. I'll take a pick. Just grab this last little bit. Okay, that's in. So we've got our snap ring in place on one side. We've got our new bearing right here. Again, US made FK bearing. And what we're going to do is we're going to press the new bearing in as opposite the way the old one came out. So big socket on one side, bearing on the other side, 1 inch socket on that bearing. It's about the right diameter. Take our nut on here. And let's just bring that down. can see what that combination looks like there. So you got our 1-inch socket on this side, bolt goes all the way through. Bigger socket over here, in this case it's 35 millimeter, it's bigger than the eye. We're gonna hold the bolt on this side and just get the bearing kind of squared in, ready to go. That's it, that is in. You can feel it when it goes tight. It will bottom out. You don't need to go further than that. The idea there is to just get it up against the side of the circlip. So that bearing is in on one side. It will need the other circlip put in. So I'm going to put the other circlip in, and then I will show you how we lubricate this, or seal it is a better way to put it. So I got the other clip on the other side. Again, those can be a little finicky, but they're not too bad. They just take a minute to do. So this is Schaefer's 219 synthetic grease. It's an extraordinarily waterproof grease. It just doesn't wash away. Now the idea here is not to grease the bearing. The bearing itself is greased at the factory. There's not a ton you can do about that. You can get some penetrating oil or some triflow or something in there. The goal here is to offer a little bit of a water barrier between the bearing itself and the O-ring in order to help it seal. So we're supplying these in a syringe, which allows you to just kind of squeeze this out and get a little bit of a bead around that guy. We're not talking about pumping a bunch of grease in here. We just want it to have a decent bit of protection because they are in the wind, and when they're under a rig, it's really easy to get water in it. If you've not used this grease before, as I said, it's hard to wash off. It is so good. It's US made grease. Schaefer makes amazing products, and really find that it helps keep water out of areas you don't want it in. I'm gonna add just a little more to that. So the idea there is, again, we're not trying to really grease this. We're just trying to give it some protection from water. So as long as somebody doesn't pressure wash it, hopefully it will keep the water out and the salt out that tends to cause so many problems with these bearings. Okay, reducers. I usually do these. Let's just slide them into the ice. Give them a push. They will go right past the O-rings and into position. Sometimes you got to work them a little bit. One's in. There it goes. And that is it. Reducers are in. New O-rings, new bearings, new snap rings. We're ready to go back in the rig. It should give you trouble-free service for quite a long time.